fat, selfish pig.
Ooh. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if you've ever been on the receiving end of those words, you know they don't just critique an action.
No, not at all.
They feel designed to just completely obliterate your right to even exist in the room. It's this heavy electric combination of words that...
Like a verbal flashbang.
Exactly, a flashbang. It's meant to completely shut down whoever is standing in front of it.
Because it is, I mean, it's the ultimate conversation ender. It's a phrase that's been engineered over centuries to shame, to isolate, and, to punish.
Yeah.
It relies on literally the absolute heaviest cultural baggage we carry.
And that is exactly where we are starting today's deep dive. We're looking at a single, just incredibly potent piece of writing.
It really is.
It's an excerpted text titled "To All the Fat, Selfish Pigs in the World," a letter on excess, appetite, and the shadow of desire.
Yeah.
And I want to set our mission up front for you listening.
Right, because this is a sensitive one.
Very. We aren't here to excuse cruelty. Like, we aren't here to minimize the real harm people do when they take up too much oxygen in a room.
Right.
But we are also trying to resist the urge to either weaponize this insult or sanitize it. We want to look at what actually lives inside this accusation. Just unpacking the cultural, spiritual, and psychological weight behind society's view of, well, too much.
And it's a fascinating document because instead of reacting defensively to the insult, the author essentially places it on a slide under a microscope.
Yeah, they dissect it.
They do. They pull apart the historical and emotional mechanics of the phrase, starting from the very foundation of the imagery we use.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if we're going to understand how this insult functions, I mean, we really have to start with the animal at the anchor of it.
The pig.
Right, we have to look at why, out of all the creatures on Earth, we chose the pig as this ultimate, unforgivable symbol of excess.
Well, what's fascinating here is that the pig is not a universal symbol of disgust.
Wait, it's not?
No. I mean, across different cultures, the pig carries enormous symbolic weight, sure, but that weight is wildly contradictory depending on where in the world you are looking.
Okay, so let's break down the mechanics of that split. In Western and Abrahamic traditions, the pig is heavily coded as unclean.
Highly impure.
Right, it's the animal that roots through filth, wallows in the mud, and lacks any sense of discernment. Like, it just consumes indiscriminately.
Exactly.
But you look elsewhere, and the narrative flips entirely. Like, in Chinese cosmology, the pig symbolizes abundance, generosity, and good fortune.
Yes.
And in Celtic traditions, pigs were literally sacred. They were associated with the spiritual otherworld.
The boar was hugely important.
Yeah, so feasting on a boar wasn't a sin of gluttony. It was, a profound celebration.
And to understand why that contradiction exists, we actually have to look at the historical and ecological realities of those cultures.
Okay, so it's an environmental thing.
Entirely.
Yeah.
Think about the geography where Abrahamic traditions originated.
So, largely arid, resource-scarce environments.
Right. Deserts. In a desert climate, a pig is a direct competitor to a human being.
Oh, wow. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, because it doesn't eat grass like a sheep or a cow, It needs grains, it needs huge amounts of water, and it needs shade.
So it basically requires the exact same resources a human family needs to survive.
Exactly. So in that environment, a society codifies the pig as unclean to protect its own survival.
That makes so much sense. It's almost like the pig is, I don't know, an economic canary in the coal mine.
That's a great way to put it.
Like its status tells you instantly how terrified a society is of running out of food.
Precisely. Because if you move to the ancient Chinese forest or the Celtic woodlands, the ecology is completely different.
So there's a lot more water.
Lots of water, lots of shade. In a dense, damp forest, a pig doesn't compete with you. It forages for acorns, roots, and grubs.
Things humans cannot digest anyway.
Right, and it converts that forest floor waste into incredibly dense, vital protein.
So it's basically a protein generator.
In that environment, the pig is a walking miracle. It represents the Earth's endless capacity to provide.
I'm looking at this and thinking, does this framework imply that the Western view, this whole idea of the pig being unclean, is fundamentally wrong?
Well,
Because it sounds like you're saying it's just a geographic misunderstanding that got turned into a religion.
it's not about labeling one cosmology right or wrong. We're just reporting what the source argues, which is that It is about recognizing the invisible operating system running in the background of our language.
The hidden code.
Exactly. When someone hurls the word pig at another person, they aren't just describing a behavior, they are actively invoking that scarcity-driven cosmology.
They're tapping into ancient survival fears.
Yes. They are summoning an ancient worldview which dictates that wanting too much or consuming without absolute control is a severe moral failing.
So if the pig label is essentially a culture's projection of its own anxiety about running out of resources, it makes me wonder how we weaponize that anxiety against each other in daily life.
Oh, we do it constantly.
Because the moment you involve another person's needs, we aren't just talking about abstract excess anymore, right?
Yeah.
We are talking about human relationships. Which brings us to the next word in the crosshairs.
Selfish.
Selfish.
Selfishness is arguably one of the most loaded accusations in human social life. And the critical mechanism to understand here is that selfishness does not exist in a vacuum.
Right.
Like, you cannot be selfish alone in an empty room. It is entirely relational.
Meaning we only experience someone as selfish relative to what we expected from them.
Exactly. We deploy the word selfish when there is a breach of our own expectations or our own perceived needs.
Okay, yeah.
But the author introduces a brilliant observation here. The rules governing those expectations are completely rigged.
Rigged how?
Society distributes the accusation of selfishness incredibly unevenly across demographics.
Oh, the double standards. Yeah, they are staggering when you lay them out.
Definitely.
Think about setting a boundary. If a woman says, I am taking the weekend entirely for myself, do not call me, society gasps.
Right, she's a monster.
She is immediately branded as selfish, a bad mother, a bad partner. But if a man does the exact same thing...
He's so driven.
Exactly. The cultural response is he's protecting his peace, he's recharging so he can provide.
Sure.
The exact same action gets filtered through a totally different moral lens depending on the body performing it.
And the rules change based on your gender, but they absolutely change based on your class, too.
Right.
Consider the economic narrative. When poor or working class people ask for more demanding a living wage, forming a union, asking for health care.
The prevailing systemic narrative often labels them as greedy.
Greedy, entitled, or selfish.
But then, when a billionaire CEO strips a company for parts, lays off thousands of workers,
Yeah.
and hoards that capital for stock buybacks,
They get a magazine cover?
yes, they are put on magazine covers, they are lauded as successful and shrewd. The distortion is wild. It's like the word selfish is a sociological funhouse mirror.
The Funhouse Mirror, yeah.
Who looks monstrous and who looks normal depends entirely on your societal standing.
That's a really good analogy.
But I'm struggling with something here. I want to push back on this a bit.
Sure.
If we conclude that selfishness is just this manipulated funhouse mirror based on race or class or gender, are we giving a massive free pass to people who are genuinely just toxic? Like, how do we separate a rigged capitalist construct from someone just being a terribly destructive friend or partner?
And that is the inherent danger of deconstructing moral language, right?
Right.
You can accidentally analyze yourself into believing that bad behavior isn't real.
Right, like nothing means anything anymore.
But the source text is very clear on this. We have to be clear. The devastation people cause is incredibly real.
Okay.
People absolutely do consume resources, emotional bandwidth, physical space, material wealth, with complete freezing indifference to the people around them.
They leave a wake of real, tangible damage.
The harm is undeniably real. What we are critically examining is who gets punished for it. We are asking you to notice who gets the selfish label slapped on them as a disciplinary collar, and who is granted a societal free pass to just keep consuming without consequence.
Wait, so if society is aggressively policing who is allowed to consume resources without punishment, that inevitably bleeds into how we police physical presence itself.
It does.
Which brings us to the first word,
Yeah.
and arguably the most culturally volatile word in the insult.
Fat.
Fat.
It is a word that carries an immense crushing gravity.
When fat is used as an insult, when it is hurled as part of this specific phrase, it is almost never actually about cardiovascular health or medical concern.
Never.
It functions entirely as a moral indictment.
It is a judgment levied on the spirit, disguised as a judgment of the body. When that word is used as a weapon, the underlying message is, you have failed the discipline of the body, you have failed to contain yourself, and therefore your very presence is an offense.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because it operates almost like a social tax.
The social tax, yeah.
If you dare to take up space, Society levies this word against you to force you to shrink back down.
Constantly enforcing smallness.
Right. The fat-shaming impulse seems entirely designed to mandate that larger bodies must remain apologetic at all times.
Hmm.
You can exist, but only if you are constantly signaling that you are trying to disappear.
And here is where we enter the spiritual terrain of the document.
Okay.
Because many indigenous and earth-based spiritual traditions hold a completely opposing view of physical presence.
Opposing how?
Well, in those frameworks, taking up space is not a failure of discipline. It is a fundamental birthright.
Wow.
Every living thing is meant to expand to its natural capacity.
That reframing is incredible. The idea that a body called fat by a hostile society is often simply a body that refused to disappear.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you see how selfish and fat operate in perfect tandem.
They really do.
They are both ideological tools used to punish appetite and presence. They are societal mechanisms built to enforce shrinking, demanding that you shrink your desires, shrink your boundaries, and physically shrink your form.
Okay, I hear all of this. The sociological and historical breakdown is fascinating, but
Yeah,
it all sounds very academic.
sure.
And the reality is, the person screaming fat, selfish pig at someone isn't acting as a cold, calculating agent of the patriarchy or capitalist resource management.
No, they're not.
They are furious. They were genuinely deeply hurt. If these insults are just unfair disciplinary tools, why do people use them with such visceral, burning venom?
And that is the pivotal empathy shift we have to make here. We cannot just analyze the words. We have to look at the profound pain of the accuser.
The person yelling.
Right. The person yelling those words is operating from a place of intense, usually unexamined agony.
Because they feel like the oxygen has literally been sucked out of the room.
Exactly. Imagine the feeling of someone walking into your life, your home, or your community and filling it so completely with their own needs, their own drama, and their own unyielding presence that there is no space left for you to breathe. The accuser is often someone who has spent their entire life following the rules of shrinking.
Oh. They are the person who contracted.
Yes.
They are the one who starved their own needs, who bit their tongue, who made themselves small so that someone else could expand.
They played by society's rules of being good and selfless.
And they expected to be rewarded for it, but instead they just got consumed. That creates a terrifying radioactive resentment.
It builds a very righteous anger. But the deep tragedy of this dynamic is who they are usually yelling at.
The accused.
Right. The pigs they are accusing, the people taking up all that oxygen, are very rarely evil masterminds.
Right?
They are usually people who learned very early on that the world is a brutal zero-sum game.
Meaning, if I don't aggressively take this resource right now, it will be taken from me and I will not survive.
They learned that softness is dangerous.
Yeah.
They were taught by their environment that appetite isn't a luxury you indulge in when you're comfortable. Appetite is the only mechanism of survival. If you don't fight for the space, you will be erased.
It's a dynamic of hurt people hurting people.
Very much so.
On one side, you have someone who starved themselves to be deemed good. On the other side, you have someone who gorged themselves just to survive a world they believed was trying to starve them.
Exactly.
But, I mean, what does this mean for us? Does the survival mode of the person taking all the oxygen excuse the fact that they are suffocating everyone else?
No, and it is crucial to hold that line. The text is very clear on this. Contextualizing behavior is not the same as excusing it.
Right.
The trauma of the person taking too much does not invalidate the pain of the person being crushed by them. But if we want to actually stop this cycle of starving and gorging, we cannot just keep screaming at individual people.
It doesn't work.
We have to look at the macro level. We have to question the systemic patterns that taught both of these people to behave this way in the first place.
Which brings us to the alternative path forward. How do we get out of this zero-sum game?
Yeah.
The author asks us to imagine a society that doesn't reward hoarding, a society that doesn't actively punish sharing or teach its children that having a fundamental need is something to be ashamed of.
And to find that alternative, we look toward those earth-based indigenous cosmologies we mentioned earlier.
Right, the ones that didn't fear the pig.
Exactly. In those traditions, the relationship with abundance is built entirely on reciprocity.
Giving back.
It is a spiritual law that the land gives to you, and therefore you are absolutely obligated to give back to the land and to your community.
It fundamentally changes the definition of a feast.
How so?
Well, feasting is sacred in those traditions specifically because it is communal. The act of sitting in a corner and eating alone while the people around you are starving isn't just rude. It literally breaks the spiritual web of life.
In that framework, the selfish person isn't just breaking a polite social rule. They're someone who has tragically forgotten their belonging.
They've isolated themselves.
They have mistaken the endless accumulation of things for actual security.
This raises an important question then.
Mm-hmm.
If we are dealing with a modern society that has largely forgotten its belonging, how do we heal it?
The text circles back to the pig here.
Oh, right.
But this time, it looks at the shadow side of that indiscriminate consumption, when hunger becomes completely unconscious.
Unconscious hunger.
Exactly.
It makes me think of going to like an incredible sprawling buffet.
Okay.
But you are blindfolded. Your hands are totally numb, and you have no sense of taste. You're just shoveling food into your mouth, consuming endlessly without actually experiencing any of it.
That sounds horrible.
Right. You have absolutely no idea when your plate is empty, and you have no idea when your stomach is full. You're just taking because the food happens to be in front of you.
That is the perfect visualization of unconscious hunger. It is the panic of a spirit that doesn't know how to feel full. And the profound antidote to this, the solution the text offers, is not what our culture usually prescribes.
Because our culture usually prescribes starvation, punishment, or intense shaming.
Exactly. Stop eating, go on a diet, shrink. But shaming the appetite is the exact mechanism that created this broken dynamic in the first place.
So what's the antidote?
The true antidote, as the author beautifully phrases it, is waking up inside the eating.
Waking up inside the eating. So it's about like brutal, radical presence.
It is about dropping the blindfold at the buffet. It means engaging your senses enough to feel what is actually needed in your body right now.
Slowing down.
It means cultivating the stillness required to feel the exact quiet moment when there is enough, when satiation has actually occurred.
Wow.
And most importantly, waking up inside the eating means finally looking up from your plate and noticing who else is sitting at the table with you.
It demands that we reconnect our own satiation to the well-being of the room, which really brings this entire exploration full circle. I mean, we started today with a harsh, violent insult meant to banish people.
We did.
But what we've uncovered is that we are living in a world completely full of people who were never taught that there was enough to go around.
Right.
And simultaneously, we are living alongside people who have paid a terrible, exhausting price for that unteaching. The people who had their oxygen stolen by the hoarders.
The ones who shrank.
The challenge is that we have to be mature enough to hold both of those truths at the exact same time.
We do. And as we close this out, I want to leave you with something to mull over in your own life.
Okay.
The next time you feel a sudden white-hot flash of judgment towards someone who is taking too much, whether they are taking up too much of the conversation, too much physical space, or too much attention, pause before you hurl an accusation.
Just take a breath.
Right. Ask yourself not what they're consuming, but what deeply felt, completely valid hunger you have been actively denying yourself in order to be deemed acceptable by society.
That's heavy.
Often, our deepest rage points directly to our own quietest starvation.
That is a phenomenal question, and it's going to stay with me for a long time. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the world around you. Keep looking for the hidden systems beneath the surface of our words, and we'll see you next time.